Welcome to the January meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting for the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District. First, we'll start with introductions, just going around the room, so to speak, and we'll have more in-depth introductions later on. My name's Rhonda Cox. I'm the chair, and I'll just call on you, Andrew.
Andrew Manley, member.
Joe.
Joe Winnie, CAC member.
Who else is here? John. John, if you'd introduce yourself. I think you're on mute still. Let's see if I can unmute you. We'll come back to John. Lily.
Lily Kleinlein, CAC member.
And Ryan.
Ryan Conway, CAC member.
And we have a new member here today for the first time. Well, I mean, other than our joint meeting. Morning.
I'm Morning, and I am the newest CAC member.
Welcome.
Thanks.
All right. And then also we have here Tom.
Tom McGlasson, Executive Director of the district.
Cheryl.
Cheryl Munson, Chair of the Board of Directors for the district, and only here for part of your meeting because I have another obligation.
And John.
Hey, John Arnold, Secretary.
All right. I think I got everybody. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for being here. I guess, Cheryl, how much time do you have? Should we we bump you to the beginning, do you think, or?
Sure, you can bump me. I'm very happy for that.
Okay.
I wanted to just have a few minutes to tell the CAC members how important their role is going to be in the in the update of the district's management plan. And I thank you for the interest that you expressed and the ideas you expressed at our joint meeting, but also some of the thoughts that came out at our meeting made me think of something important to tell you, and that is we have a revenue stream to support the district's operations, all the operations. that is fairly narrowly limited. We don't see the tax base really growing, and at least into the foreseeable future, we don't see that we will be returning to a source of revenue that came from rebates from recycling. Further, with the district's contractual agreement with Republic Services expiring in a little over a year, there will be uncertainty until we can know what will be arranged in terms of a contract and host fees. So this leads me to advise not just the CAC, but certainly the board as well, that we have to think about the financial costs of the aspirations that we would like to include in the management plan. And Tom McGlasson has certainly made a good point of indicating that our aspirations really should not exceed what is actually achievable, because we don't want to lay out a course for ourselves that we would fail at, because that is not doing anybody any good. So for those of you who are new members to the CAC, one way you can get familiar with the financial side of the district even though that's not your responsibility, you can become familiar with it so you have that guidance. And I thought, looking back at the CATS recordings of the Board of Directors meetings would be very helpful. Tom McGlasson had very informative PowerPoints, and I think this would be a good overview for you all. So that's in essence what I wanted to say. And Tom, I'm sure, can provide other information. So did you have any questions for me? I see no hands go up. I see no hands go up. So I'll just say thank you to you all, and I will have a little break before my next meeting, but I appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for letting me speak at the beginning.
Thank you, Cheryl. I really appreciate having that insight because I know we all want to dream big, and of course we can still dream big in the back of our heads, but it's good to know what our boundaries are for this.
So it's good to dream big, and maybe it will. Some of it will be in the phrasing of our bigger dreams, how we refer to those. So thanks again. I'll see you at the next meeting.
Terrific.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Bye.
Thank you, Cheryl. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'll jump back in to our under our introductions. I did want to mention you met Morning already, and so the addition of Morning brought our group to 10, and so our quorum is now 6. So just something I always like everyone to be aware of. Before we go any further, just wanted to give everybody a chance to review the agenda if you haven't already, and would take a motion to approve the agenda unless there are any additions.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, hearing none, that approves the agenda, and we'll continue on. So we had 3 different meetings worth of minutes all in one for you to review for this meeting, and hopefully everybody had a chance to look at May, September, and December, and wanted to see if we're ready to approve those, or if there were any concerns with the minutes.
I do have one item that I wanted to mention
Sure.
with respect to the December 2nd meeting minutes. On
Sure.
page 2, it mentions the district master plan, which I guess perhaps is a technicality, but it's the management plan that's in discussion.
Sure. Can make that change.
And the other thought that I had was the last sentence of that section says lots of really good ideas were discussed. And I unfortunately didn't take the time to review the video, but I thought it might be worth, I thought I'd ask to see if it's worth noting what was discussed for record keeping purposes.
Sure. So for now, we could just go ahead and approve, what was it, May and September, until we have those details added for the December meeting? Does that sound good?
I think so.
Okay. Would anybody like to move to approve May and September as is?
I will make the motion to approve the May and September meeting minutes for the CAC.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, having heard none. May and September are approved, and we will get more detail on December. I think voting during these meetings is an exercise of learning how to quickly find your mute and unmute button, but you're doing great. All right, on to the district update from
And
Tom.
Rondi, Rodney,
Oh,
I'm
sure.
sorry. One more item on the December 2nd minutes.
Oh, sure.
At, I guess under the last part, under the district update on food waste. The second sentence says the district received funds to purchase bins from recycling market development grant. That's not accurate. The funds that we received were for advertising and promotion of the food waste collection program, not to purchase materials.
Okay.
So I haven't looked at the video. I don't know if I misspoke or if that
Okay,
was
sure.
written down wrong on the minutes, but the grant funding, that money was used to do for promotional efforts related to the expansion of the food waste collection program to all the 5 facilities.
Did you say food waste or organic waste collection?
Food waste,
Food.
the partnership we're doing with Green Camino and with the bins, the food waste collection bins at the 5 recycling centers.
Worst typist.
It's always made more difficult by spectators.
Yes, of course. And I'll just say what I have, but let me know, Tom, if I need to change that, or I can email it to you
Okay.
following this meeting. Okay, any other comments on December? Okay, back up. Oh, okay. And Tom, if you'd like to give us the district update now?
Well, you guys are already a part of the big part of it, so I think that everybody here was in attendance at the joint meeting regarding the solid waste management plan. So obviously that's the big project, and I guess I did have a meeting this morning with the capstone class that we're planning on working with. Ryan and Andrea were present as well, because class is also doing some things specific for Fable Farms and Green Camino. But I think it went well. There's interest on that side, and came away from that. It'll probably take them a couple of weeks to divvy up into groups to figure out who's going to take part of, accomplish which tasks for the capstone project, and but they'll start getting those groups set up and making those assignments, and reaching out to people to get the ball rolling. So I'm excited, and I guess that it's just to have them taking on a big chunk of this with that demographic study. So I'm really optimistic that that's going to work out well for us. So
Tom, can you remind me again what the class is?
it's the actual title of the class, I don't know that I know. Ryan, do you know that? Do you or Andrea know the class title?
It's a capstone project class. I don't remember if it was.
Okay.
But
Yeah, it's done. It's through the geography department.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
Morning's the one that got me in touch with the professor. Do you?
I don't know what the class is. All I know is that they are doing a capstone thing.
Okay, that's fine, but geography helps to narrow it down.
It's in the geography department, and they are, they're gonna, to a large degree, they're gonna focus on food waste, and maybe to a little lesser degree organic waste, but with regard to the demographic study and doing projections, they'll look at waste generation in total. So and then I guess the other thing that I guess I can announce publicly for the first time, it was brought up at the board meeting, but we had to seek health department agreement with doing this, and they've done so. So beginning look at the calendar. Beginning Tuesday, February the 2nd, the South Walnut facility will resume its Tuesday through Saturday 5-day-a-week schedule. Excited, and hopefully our customers are excited to get that 5th day added to the schedule moving forward. But I guess still will require masks and social distancing when people are at the facility, and none of the other COVID precautions we have in place are going to change.
Hey,
That's what I got.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, what's the name of the professor?
Kurt Waldman.
Okay. Is that a grad or an undergrad course?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's an undergrad course.
Okay. I was just curious, being in grad school right now, maybe a future opportunity to take out of curiosity.
And Tom, did you say that's all you have for your updates?
Yeah.
Can I follow up with a question also about the class, not seeking what its name is, but you said that their primary task with respect to the management plan is going to be working on the waste generation predictions. Is that accurate?
No, I don't know that that's necessarily a primary task. I mean, that is one of the tasks. For me, that's all a part of the demographic study, and using those the population projections to help predict future waste generation based on population growth, which is not something I was looking forward to doing as a part of the plan. So I'm pleased to have somebody else take that on.
Okay. Do they have a narrow scope of what they will be approaching, or is it open-ended?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I'd call it narrow, but at this point, it's pretty much a defined scope. They're going to do the demographic study. Like I said, they have some stuff they're going to do for Green Camino regarding them expanding their collection program out beyond the city and into the county. They're going to look at composting, mulching, food waste, organic waste diversion, education and outreach that the district can do, which is something that has to be incorporated into the solid waste management plan. Also going to look at helping us develop a survey we can make available to Monroe County residents to get more public input on what types of things the residents would like to see in the plan and/or the district doing with its current services as far as improvements, expanding into new areas and things like that.
Great, thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Tom.
And
Oh,
Tom,
go ahead.
I had a quick question. In regards to some of the demographic and waste generation figures that we need for the plan, I noticed that it looks like in the September 17th Executive Committee Board packet, I see a memorandum from you dated September 4th, 2020, and it looks like you've already done quite a bit of work. It looks like page 9 of that report, I'm seeing tables on estimated population growth, growth rates, waste generated in tons and per capita tons, and recycling generated in tons and per capita tons from 2015 to 2040.
What year is that from? 17?
The memo
2018?
The memo is dated September 4th, 2020. But I don't know where the data was gathered from. This has to do with establishing the criteria for approving the Rumpke transfer station. So I don't know if that, was that data collected earlier then? Because you have it out to 2040.
Yeah, that, I've slept since then, so, but I'd have to go back and look, because I did, when I first became director, at that point, the plan update was something that I identified, and part of the reason I wasn't looking forward to the demographic study was, to an extent, I'd already done it once, about 4 years ago, and I have that data, and that will be made available at some point during this updating process. I started to put together a draft plan update, and did that, and I don't know if what's in that memo you're looking at, if that's stuff that I pulled from that memo, or if I updated it for current census projections and numbers from the U.S. Census Bureau.
I just now saw the fine print of an asterisk. Data is for 2018, as this is the most recent year recycling data is available for item. And it looks like you have the years listed 2015 through 2019, and then it's 5-year increments of 2025, 2030, and 2040. But it looks like you did a great job, and we got plenty to work with now.
So, yeah, like I said, and I have that data from using the U.S., what I could pull from the U.S. Census and item back in 2016 or early 17 when I, first started looking at doing a plan update. And like I said, as we get into the process, that that will be made available to everybody, and so we can, again, it's outdated, but at least it gives you an idea of what those projections look like 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, thanks for getting started on that work.
You have the 2019 recycling data now, right, Tom? That's one of the last things I gave to you before I left item, right? Or was that 2020? Or it wouldn't be 2020, it'd be.
No, it was 2018.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Because no, maybe no, it would have been 2019. Sorry, and I think I got part of it, and then I requested another part, and you left, and I didn't get the second part that I asked for. So.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right. Your successor was just not as responsive as you were.
There is a published IDEM 2019 recycling activity summary. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, that's pretty generic data, and Andrew was helping me get some more specific data, relative to Monroe County and the facilities and companies that service Monroe County, and that data is not made readily publicly available.
Gotcha.
Okay, is that all relating to Tom's update from the district? Okay, great. Okay, well, we'll start then with old business. Last meeting, we talked about setting up a place where we can have shared files, and Tom let us know that the district was already using Dropbox. So he has sent us, I think we all should have gotten emails so that we should all have access to it by now. I don't know. Tom, did you send it to Morning as well?
That's what I was just going to ask. Morning, did you ever get a link sent to a Dropbox folder?
I had been able to see some documents. I don't know if the link was for the whole Dropbox or just for those certain documents.
Well, I guess there's right now there would be two floating around. There's one that was sent to a folder that's going to contain materials related to the solid waste management plan update. But there's another folder in that Dropbox account that's just titled CAC that I was trying to set up for that the CAC could use to be able to go in and use as their own document dump to share files and work on files collaboratively and stuff like that.
Okay, I don't think I have that. I think the links I had were for executive meeting agenda.
Okay, yeah, those are out publicly available. The solid waste management plan and the CAC folder are restricted to access by invite only. So
yeah, I haven't received that yet.
Okay.
Does everybody else, or has everybody else received an invitation? Or does anyone have any trouble with it or anything like that? Okay, good. Just wanted to be sure. And I just need to go through, because I have a repository of all the agendas and minutes and everything from the time that I've been chair, so I can dump those in a folder just so we have them. But I guess I think I should maybe get in the habit of, instead of sending you an attachment, maybe sending, Tom, would that be a good use for this, to just send a link to the agenda in the Dropbox for the meeting? Or is it better to still send what I have been sending, or?
As long as everybody has the access to it and bookmarks it or whatever, you can just tell them that the agenda's in this Dropbox folder.
Sure, okay. Maybe for a little bit, I'll do both until I'm sure that everybody's using the Dropbox, because not everyone's here today, so. Okay, great, thanks. Well, thank you for setting us up, Tom. Okay, on to the big topic that started last month, the solid waste management plan. First of all, in our joint meeting that we had, was that only last week? With the board, we talked about a committee that would be discussing solid waste problems that the district has to address as part of this plan. And so they were, the directors were asking for volunteers from the CAC to be a part of this committee. So I said I would mention that at this meeting to see if there's any interest. So Tom, would the best way be for people to email? Whom should they email? Let's see. Was Isabel the head of that committee?
I'm sorry, say it again. Is Isabel?
I believe Isabel was going to be the head of that subcommittee. Is that right? For some reason I thought that.
Of the Waste Problems Committee?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, she's going to be the board representative on that committee. It's,
Okay.
As far as a organizational structure of the committee, we haven't really discussed that yet.
Okay, sure. So whom should people notify if they're interested?
Me.
Oh, okay, great. All right. Well, let Tom know if you're interested. Or if you have any questions now about what all that entails, just speak up.
Do you want to ask, is there anything defined for it yet, or is it just still an idea?
I think for a large part, it's still an idea, but it's, what the committee is to look at, identify, what are perceived as existing waste problems right now, which would, be access to disposal, access to alternatives to disposal, access to recycling. Are there, problem items or materials, like waste tires, auto fluids, things that there's not, readily available recycling or disposal option for people. And then I think moving forward in that too, as we start to get some of the demographic information out of the capstone class, and we look at the projected generation numbers, is that going to create any potential problems down the road? Is the waste generation projected to exceed facility capacity? Things like that.
Got it, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, that's all the questions on that. Then on to just our part of the discussion, what we can discuss in this meeting. Joe had suggested some areas of focus to keep us on track. So I think these will be very helpful. So Joe, I don't know if you'd like to lead this portion of the discussion or?
Potentially, and actually I was going to suggest that if now is a good opportunity, we actually visit the new business of the quick introductions of ourselves before we continue the collaborative part of the work, just to, I don't know, make sure everyone's acquainted and has the context of everybody's mutual or personal interests so that when we do collaborate, it's knowing a little bit more about everyone rather than doing that at the end.
Sure, that's fine with me. Let's see. So I know Joe and Andrew already did this last week. I didn't know if you wanted to do it again or an abbreviated version for morning or for anyone who may have missed it last time.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and just do a quick intro. Andrew Manley, I'm a former solid waste permitting manager with IDEM. Currently a master's student studying environmental policy and environmental science at IU.
Yeah, I'll quick do myself as well. I won't give a slideshow presentation this time, but in short, I am a recent arrival to the city of Bloomington. I have been a software engineer by education, by trade for about 10 years, and decided to change the focus of my life as I learned more and more about the what I call an urgent need for a more sustainable urban society, or a more sustainable society in general. And to me, the biggest impact, maybe most fundamental areas are food production and waste management, and particularly within waste management, food and organic waste, because that just seems to be a huge opportunity for a big impact with a single stream. So that's actually what brought me to the CAC, because the CAC is the, I guess, most comprehensive authority on waste management in the area. So it seemed like a logical place to get connected and to start to understand and try to guide improved waste management practices.
Thanks, Jim. Would anybody else like to jump in?
I can go next.
Sure.
My name is Lily, and I have been on the CAC for quite a long time. It's probably coming on 9 years. And I originally joined with an interest. I was in a program called Leadership Bloomington, Monroe County, and we had a group project. It was a leadership development program. And the project we chose was waste streams of, and recycling specifically of businesses, like restaurants, downtown businesses in particular, and found that there were a lot of reasons and complicated reasons why many of those businesses don't do a better job at recycling at a bare minimum, you know, a lot of their cans and glass. And so I joined then, and I'm still quite interested in that. I personally am interested in, you know, household waste management, but I realize over the years that it is really businesses, and whether it's a small or large business, that might make a bigger difference in reducing the waste stream. And also then I think could set an example for residents to do a little better as well. So, you know, it's been a humbling experience to learn why, even just logistically, you know, our alleyways and street setup in town, of why some of the businesses don't do a better job of recycling storage in the back of kitchens. But that's probably where my biggest interest lies. And I think a lot of that lies within maybe the city limits, but the county, I've been so pleased over all these years with how specifically the county manages their recycling and their promotion of such. Oh, and I'm also a yoga teacher in my regular life.
John, did you want to go?
Yeah, yes, I'll go next. John Arnold, and I've been on the CAC since 2008. And I met Larry Barker, the former director, through our homeowners association, which I'm president of and treasurer of. And we promote recycling in our neighborhood, and we do a great job. But my main the main thing I do is I'm a CPA, and I'm originally from the state of Iowa, so that's where my certificate is from, and not Indiana. But each state has their own board of accountancy, which issues their certificates. And but the test is given uniformly on all 50 states at the same time. So that's a little bit about that. And I've been with the state of Indiana since 1988, almost 33 years in financial management. And I worked in the Monroe County office for 22 years, and we always had a balanced budget, and I was always happy about that. And we did our financial statements on the accrual basis rather than the cash basis. So that way we knew exactly when the revenue streams were coming in, and it wasn't uneven reporting. And so that's one thing we did. And so that's a little bit about me. And let's see. And I've been active in the homeowners association since 1998, and as president and treasurer of the Gentry Estates Homeowners Association. And let's see. And I'm also treasurer of the local Republican Party. And but I take a nonpartisan approach. I don't really get involved in politics too much. I concentrate on the financial reporting for the parties. So I'm not really in the technical side of recycling, but the financial side. But I enjoy coming to these meetings and promoting recycling in our neighborhood because I recognize that you shouldn't just waste. You should try to get the most out of what you have, and because eventually the resources are going to become very scarce. And so, and one thing I do whenever I'm going to come to the recycling center, I always send out an email to our neighborhood and let them know that if they want to bring their recyclables to my house, I will take them, so we don't have to have everybody going to the center. That I'll take a whole bunch of stuff, and that eliminates excess fuel. And anyway, that's me.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Who else do we have? Morning?
Yep. I am interested in diversion of waste that's usable. So both food waste diversion and also just other usable items diversion. I also was a participant in Leadership Bloomington Monroe County, and I think, Lily, that I had seen some of what your team had done in the past. So the project that I had worked on was opening a food bank, a food pantry at Ivy Tech, which got put on hold because of the pandemic, unfortunately. But my group and I also were focusing on food waste and making more outlets for people. But so my interest is in waste diversion.
Thank you, Morning. Let's see, Ryan?
Sorry, still struggling with the mute button. Hi, I'm Ryan Conway. This will be my 12th year in Bloomington. I came here as a Foreign Language Area Studies Fellow in Political Economy, studying West African natural resources and resource economies. I quickly realized that I didn't want to do the abstract political science. I was more about the applied kind of stuff, so I found my way into the Ostrom workshop. I worked with Eleanor Ostrom for several years, and when she passed away, I realized that not only was my committee never going to be the same, but I really lacked guidance on the application part. And so I got out of academia and more into the nonprofit sphere, first at the Center for Sustainable Living here in Bloomington, which I worked with for about 6 years. And then I led the Bloomington Food Policy Council for 5 years. And of course, we focused a lot on food diversion and food waste with the Food Policy Council. So when I decided to move on into professional practice, it seemed like farming, food growing, and then composting, food waste management, was a good fit. Because when we first moved on to this farm, it came with a greenhouse. We were very lucky, but it hadn't been used in like 3 or 4 years. And when you button up a greenhouse and don't use it, this evaporation transpiration cycle begins that eventually brings up a bunch of minerals to the soil and turns it into a really hard pan. When we asked some local farmers like what they would do to solve it, they're like, you need tons of compost. We're like, sweet, where do you get it? And they're like, well, we don't like to use any of the stuff that's made here because the quality's too low. We actually import ours from Michigan and Wisconsin. And so we're like, okay, what's the bill on that? And they showed us the receipts, and it cost as much to ship the stuff here as it does to actually buy the product itself. So we realized we were too broke to ever afford that. And so we realized that we could be providing a community service and a service that our own farm desperately needed just by making a bunch of compost. So really the mission started small to try to help divert food waste in Bloomington and Monroe County, and to try to make enough quality compost for organic gardeners, home food producers, and other local farmers, so that we could recapture some of that market locally and keep resources local, and just try to circulate all that for the home team. So it was a really easy fit once we started getting into our IDEM registration to realize, hey, I want to know what the CAC is all about. And so I think I joined in October of 2018.
Thank you, Ryan. I think that's all of our members other than me. Did I miss anybody else? Okay. All right. So yes, I'm Rhonda Cox. I took an interest in recycling and composting when I started learning about it in the 6th grade. Composting definitely became a passion early on, so much so that my brothers lovingly referred to me as the compost queen. I went on to study environmental management at IU, and then I work at the IU Foundation right now as a data analyst, but I did have a short stint in the solid waste business as I co-founded Green Camino, the curbside collection service with friend Kathy Gutowski. So it has since, it is, of course, now you know, Ryan and Andrea have it, so it's in great hands and doing well. But I was glad to be a part of that. I originally learned about the CAC from Lily Kleinlein, who was then and still is on this committee, because we used to work together, and she knew I was interested in the environment in general and in solid waste, because I started a composting program at Solution Tree where we both worked. And so I joined the CAC. I don't even remember what year that was, but I really hope to help the district, stick to their mission, which is, reducing the amount of waste going to final disposal. They do a great job with recycling. I'm just hopeful that more can be done, to encourage others to reuse as well as eliminate waste at the source when possible. And of course, composting is now something that is being talked about more and more. So hopefully more can feel encouraged to compost when disposal is needed. I've often found it troubling that the onus is put on the consumer to find the best ways to dispose of their waste. And so I'm hoping that the tides will start to turn more and they will have to take more responsibility and find ways to use packaging, less packaging or more environmentally friendly packaging and all those things. So meanwhile, I've definitely taken every opportunity I can to educate those around me who aren't sure about what can and can't be recycled, how to start compost in their backyard, that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy having those conversations anytime. And that's really all there is about me to share right now. And so, Joe, you had outlined some areas of focus for us to start on. And we won't get through all of them tonight, but it's just something for us to keep in mind as we revisit this conversation in the coming months. So I'll turn it over to Joe.
Yeah, I think it would be probably best to start big picture, and the one topic, I'll call it, that I think would be good to focus on is goals and objectives, because as Tom mentioned at the group work session, that the means and the costs are going to follow that. And I think a couple of good things to know are, first, sort of what full-scale timeline we want to allocate to the discussion of these things, like how many CAC meetings do we want to target for discussing it all, so we can try to break down topic times within that and try to have a objective end time rather than just discussing round and round and having that go on indefinitely, which is often what happens. So are there any thoughts on how many meetings, or I guess equivalent months, that we want to allocate to this discussion?
My recollection that the commissioners at our joint meeting requested that we have something around June 1st.
All right. As we are January, that'll give us 3 months, or I guess 3 meetings before that time, which would include our last meeting to, I guess, button everything up. Is that accurate? So in that case,
Can I jump in real fast here?
Yeah.
Just, I mean, maybe to help you guys expedite things and stuff, that I'm not aware of anything that would prevent the CAC from breaking off into smaller committees to do specific tasks and projects that could meet outside of that monthly meeting schedule. And as long as it's less than a quorum, would not necessarily need to be a public meeting and have to advertise and go through all of those hoops to set those meetings up. So that may be an option that you want to consider.
Definitely, yeah, so we just need 5 people or fewer. That would be okay. And then, of course, these subcommittees could report back. So if we do decide, when we're ready to make a statement to the board, then we can all, review it together and agree on what we're gonna move forward.
And that would be the only caveat, that, that anything that came out of those committees that was going to be, recommended to the board or presented to the board, that then the committee as a whole would need to, or a majority vote would need to approve moving that forward.
Okay, I think that does sound like a good plan, in which case that makes me think that we should use this meeting to discuss, I guess, what our collective highest priorities are, so that the subcommittees know what to focus on during their meetings. And we can use the next meeting to, I guess, return and reconvene and share what we've, I guess, learned or decided on in subgroups. And then the following meeting could be used to finalize everything after our group discussion, so that the third meeting before June 1st would be to just confirm the collection or the compilation of what we've contributed. Does that sound like an agreeable layout? All right.
Sounds good to me.
So we already did quite a bit of conversation during the work session. Does anyone have any new ideas or follow-up thoughts that they wanted to express now with respect to those ideas?
I do. Well, I have a question. So I see that under areas of focus and under solid waste management policy required, there are 4 components. And I'm wondering if those are listed somewhere, or if those are things that we as a group created.
These are from the Indiana code, right? Are you talking about these here?
Yes, yeah, I see.
The top 4. Yeah.
So I listed right here is the Indiana code that goes along with it, but I believe that document is in the Dropbox.
Okay.
Let's see. Tom, do you recall the name of it? Is it called Solid Waste Management Plan, or does it remember what you named it?
Yeah, the statute.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's titled that statute title.
Okay.
So would we, so if those are the requirements, would we be able to add other components, or are we going to stick with just these 4?
Well, no, I mean, that's the minimum requirements. And, the district would certainly have the option to go beyond that. Of course, that would be at the discretion of the board.
Okay.
Okay. And Morning, if you're interested, I can send you a link to the actual full Indiana code is available online. And those numbers following the IC in parentheses are sections of code. So if you go to like 13-21-5, that contains everything about the organization and operation of the districts with respect to waste management. And then each subsection, so the 12 is about the policy requirement. And actually I think 5 is all about the management policy. And then 12 is the requirements and 13 is the contents. So there's a lot of information.
Yeah. I'm guessing, I'm wondering if we would be breaking up into groups based on all 10 of these things, or if we would break into, I'm wondering what groups we'd break into.
Like, would it be 2 groups, 1 for each bigger bullet?
Maybe, or if, if you're interested in reduction, you would be in one group, and diversion for another. That would be a lot of small groups.
And we could also, since we have 2 meetings in which we could have subgroups intervals, we could do 2 sets of subgroups. If you wanted to like focus on policy between this meeting and the next one, and then required contents between the next meeting and the following. I mean, we can really discuss now how we want to break this all up.
Mhm.
And actually on that note, Rondi, what is the target end time of today's meeting?
So we usually try to keep it at about an hour. Sometimes it goes a little bit over.
Okay.
So we're getting close, but I don't know. I mean, it could potentially go. I mean, if this meeting goes till 6:30, does anybody have to leave before then? Does anyone have to leave at 6:15?
So for me personally, a current limitation is that I'm also a state appointed supervisor to our county's soil and water conservation district. And our meetings actually are 6:15 on this third Thursday. I'll likely have the chairship for this year, so I'll see if I can get those moved to Tuesdays.
Mhm.
I'm going to stick around a little extra longer tonight because I don't think I'm needed at that meeting just yet. But that's the only overlap. But if no one else has any overlaps, I can deal with that other board separately.
As far as the splitting into subcommittees, what seems most logical to me is the 4 areas of focus, like reduction, diversion, landfill management, education on composting. We split subcommittees into those 4, and then each of those subcommittees focuses on the additional 6 contents of the plan, and they kind of identify what ones apply for each of the 4 policy required sections.
That makes sense.
Great idea.
Agreed.
So we could have 4 subcommittees, you're saying, for the reduction, diversion, and so on. Or we could do it in waves, as Joe suggested, do 2 subcommittees now and then 2 subcommittees after we meet next. Or we could have 2 subcommittees now, each taking 2 bullets. I don't know if anyone has a preference.
Yeah, no, I think Andrew's suggestion is a good one. And with respect to the required contents of the plan, facility fees, supervision, and yeah, those 2 don't really, at least facilities fees is kind of just specific to existing district facilities, which don't need to be necessarily included with the policy, I believe. But I think Andrew's plan is a good one for breaking it into the 4 management policy sections, and then for each policy, the contents be applied.
So I'm guessing if we have these smaller meetings before the next larger meeting, at that next larger meeting, we would each talk about what the goals and objectives were for each of those management policies and see if there's cohesion. And if not, it might not matter. Or we could just like tweak things a little bit so that they make a cohesive statement, maybe.
Yeah, Ryan, do you have a remark?
I wanted to make a suggestion about the 4 bullet points under solid waste management policy required. From my understanding of the literature, with not just organics, but recycling generally, is that some reduction and diversion issues are very much education issues. So why there's education on composting as a separate thing rather than education about diversion practices and reduction practices in the home, I mean, it almost seems like education generally is a category that could apply to a lot of this. So I just want to toss that out there because, 21% of the trash stream is actually recyclable. And so if we're not addressing that 21% in the education component, then that's a shortcoming.
So would you suggest having landfill management be one subcommittee and the other 3 being another, or?
Tom's got ideas.
Jump in real fast.
Sure.
Yep.
Ryan, I agree with you, and you're exactly right. And I'm sure that you and most of the members know, I mean, the district's outreach and education programs go well beyond that. And there's no intent to shrink, our education and outreach out of this. If anything, we want to look at growing those options. But the statute specifically mentions education and outreach related to composting and organic diversion.
Yeah, I'm working on a link that I can quick send to everyone to highlight where those are taken from. And yeah, I just grabbed the essential words when making the summary to kind of focus the meeting around those things.
And actually you can just Google, if you copy and paste the IC 1321.5, if you Google it, it'll draw it right up for you.
Yeah, chat is disabled, so I can't actually send that link, but it does break down all of those specifics.
You know, would you like me, why don't I just open it on my screen? Would that be?
Sure.
I enabled the chat if you need it.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
I can still do it. Let me just get it open.
So I did just put it in the chat.
As well, I'll share just so we can look together.
And if I may, in the meantime, just kind of summarize based on my recollection from the joint session and from what we discussed today, I'd say that our collective interests are waste generation reduction with the focus on organics and I guess diversion with a focus on organics and usable items. Does that, and education. So there's kind of essentially our interests align with the items that are listed as requirements. Is that accurate, or am I missing anyone's interests?
I do have an interest outside of my field of specialty in the fact that 21% of the waste in Kessler's analysis was recyclable. So I do think that as regular recycling is a primary mission of the district, that we do need to remember to focus on that as well. I actually just found an old 2015 report from a SPIA capstone class back when I was working with the City of Bloomington Environmental Commission when they were brainstorming about how to get recycling into apartment complexes. And lo and behold, that still hasn't happened. So it is an issue we need to address.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we broke up into those 4 groups, if no group would feel like they would be able to generate a plan on some other topic that would fit under policy. So like, I guess I'm thinking if like city or county policy or like legislative things are prohibitive, how we could address that kind of thing, because that wouldn't fall under diversion or reduction. Do you know what I mean?
I do. So, yeah. Do you have any specifics in mind for work that you're interested in or that you're interested in the CAC achieving that don't fall under those umbrellas that you want to define or categorize?
I mean, I guess part of it might just be outside of the scope of CAC, but if there was, like you were talking about, mandatory recycling or mandatory availability for recycling at apartment complexes, that kind of thing. And maybe it would fall under one of those 4 things, but I'm thinking like legislative type things aren't directly related to the waste itself. It's kind of a separate thing. And maybe education could extend to educating legislators or city or county council. I'm just wondering what other types of things wouldn't fall into those categories, or maybe everything could fit into those categories, depending on how creatively we're thinking.
I
Yes.
love the idea of legislator education, both at the local and the state level. I think that it's so important for us to get good progressive policies around waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as Andrew had mentioned, we could still approach these things as individual notions, like the reduction, the diversion, the recycling, and then one could investigate education in those respective categories for different targets. Well, of course, education is already, so if I may review, the 4 general categories that we have are waste reduction, waste diversion, education, and the 4th, I actually don't have.
The landfill management.
Landfill management, thank you. So education, it would seem like would catch that bucket that you were just talking about, Morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's completely reasonable to include legislator education under that. Okay.
I'll go ahead and volunteer for a committee if that's okay.
Sounds good.
I was thinking I could do the landfill management. I think I have the most exposure to that out of the other members. But I'm also interested in special wastes like tires, biosolids and whatnot. So I might take on that as well. I guess that goes into diversion, but.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a problem with having maybe involvement in more than one committee. Is there a group consensus on that? I don't think that we need to have them all be mutually exclusive necessarily. I think if you're interested in serving on 2, and as long as we arrange meetings that don't conflict, we could participate in more than one category as long as all committees stay beneath the threshold.
Sure, I don't think we would want to limit anyone from participating as much as they'd like, so.
Yeah, okay.
Should there be a minimum number for each group?
I don't think so.
Well, at least 2, maybe.
Mhm.
Okay. So we have waste reduction, waste diversion, education, and then landfill management. Andrew is interested in landfill management. And just to, before we all start signing up, is everyone in agreement that those are the 4 subcommittees that we want to create? Or is there
Are we
disagreement?
doing all 4 committees right now, or are we going to do it in 2 waves, as I thought you had said at one point? Like, didn't you say we would have 2 subcommittees meet back to talk about their findings and then do the next 2?
Yes, I had suggested that, but didn't have the impression that anyone was particularly for one way or the other. Does anyone have any more thoughts on that?
I think it's smart.
Okay.
I like having 2 waves, but I also like the idea of having each group address all of the 6 points underneath. So there could be 2 waves of each, and then there could be more participation in each of the small groups if there were 2 sets.
I'm sorry, could you express that one more time? I didn't catch the implication.
I was agreeing that having 2 rounds of groups would be beneficial because there would be more participation in all 4 of them. And I also like the idea of each of the groups addressing those 6 points, the required contents of the plan in those discussions. So there will still be 4 groups, but it will be 2 and then the other 2.
I agree with Morning.
Okay, and could you describe, I guess, the structure of that? Like which 2 groups in which order, or I'm still having a hard time conceptualizing it and putting it down for organizing. So you're saying that there would be...
It's basically your suggestion of having 2 rounds and, right?
So we'd only do...
Have reduction and diversion, each one of those a subcommittee start now? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or whichever two.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah, we just need to pick two.
Yeah.
So for example,
If there
say,
are two that we think complement each other more, or I don't know.
okay, so for example's sake, if we continue with that, we would start with the reduction and diversion committees for the time between this meeting and the next. Ryan, did you want to interject?
I do feel like there's more overlap in education and reduction because it seems like primarily reduction is like an internal process correction, whether that's in your own home or in your own business.
I was thinking education might be in the second wave of groups because so many ideas about education will come from discussions about reduction and diversion because they are so linked. But in those discussions, I think there will be concrete ideas of who needs to be educated about what and how.
Brilliant. I second. Yeah.
Okay, so we maintain focus on two subcommittees of waste reduction and waste diversion between this meeting and the following meeting. Is that accurate so far? Okay. And then between the following meeting and the one thereafter, there would be two subcommittees for education and landfill management.
Mhm.
Okay. And then anyone would be, so we'd have a minimum of 2 members per committee. And then we would be discussing, each committee would be addressing the areas of focus of the management policy requirements. And then each committee would be discussing the required contents of the plan, the 6 points. Okay, that sounds good to me too. And then we just need, do we want to use this meeting to do committee signups, or do you want to do that offline with email exchanges?
Let's do it now.
Okay, so I think I'll just do a roll call then for starting by waste reduction to see, or I'll start by category and see who's interested in joining the waste reduction committee. So I, for one, am.
Conway volunteers.
All right. Ryan.
I'm up for either one wherever there's need, so.
Andy, I'll put you as a maybe. So final call for waste reduction committee. Seeing no other volunteers, I'll go on to the waste diversion committee.
Okay, now repeat back who we have for waste reduction so I can get this in the
Sure.
minutes.
Sure. So for the waste reduction, it would consist of myself, Joe Winia, Ryan Conway.
Okay, just a second. You're okay, Joe.
Yep.
And okay, start again. Joe and who else?
Then Ryan Conway.
Brian. Okay.
And then we have Randy.
Randy. Okay, Joe, Ryan, and Randy. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, waste reduction. We have 3 members. Okay.
And then for waste diversion.
Sign me up too.
I'll do that one.
Right.
I would like that one as well.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, now let's read them back so we make sure. Okay, Randy, Ryan, and who else?
So that was actually Andrew, Ryan, and Morning.
Okay, Andrew,
Yep.
Ryan, and Morning.
Yep. And I'm going to.
Is that it then?
I'm going to put myself as a maybe in waste diversion as well.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, we'll plan on that one. Yeah, put me in for that one too.
Okay. Okay. So we have Ryan, Andrew, Morning, and Joseph on the waste. That's the waste diversion.
Correct.
So it was waste reduction and waste diversion so far. Okay.
Yep. And
So then will we
then
just plan to follow up by email then to schedule meetings?
I think so. And Rondi, if you want to reach out to members not in attendance to see if they are interested
Mhm.
in either of those committees as well.
Okay, so we just have the two so far then, and we're good.
I think I'd
Yes.
like to be added to reduction as well.
Randy. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 5 people. Okay.
Sorry, that was Morning wanted to be added to the reduction team.
Correct.
Morning. Okay, let's just a second. Let me write that.
Joe, do you want to email, have you been,
I was just going to say that I can also send you this list that I have, John, too,
Yeah.
because I've been punching people in as they go as well. And then we can just make sure that they're consistent.
Great.
And then we can address the education and landfill management at the next meeting as we go through that round subsequently.
great.
Can someone tell me what is involved with the landfill management policy? What's included in that?
I apologize. I hate to cut this
Oh,
short, but
we need to-
we've gone quite a bit over and we still haven't done election of officers. So I'd like to do that while we have quorum. So
Okay.
I'm sorry if we could cut here and move to that and then we can get Ryan onto his meeting.
Sure.
Yes.
Sorry. All right, to be continued, but there will be follow-up regarding these subcommittee meetings that we'll be scheduling. And Joe will send John the details of who's on what. Okay, so we have already covered our individual introductions. So election of officers, we do at the beginning of every year. And so I'm chair, Paul White is currently the vice chair, and John Arnold is our secretary. I think I've been doing this since maybe 2017, and John, I believe, has been secretary since 2015, and Paul, I think, was last year. I think last year was his first year. So definitely we can always, I'm happy just to be a member of the CAC if someone would love to be the chair, but also I'm happy to continue serving as chair if no one else is interested, or if you'd like me to continue. And while John has been a faithful secretary, it's a lot of work. And so he's already done it for so long. So if there is anyone who would be at all interested, I also thought we could consider having a shared responsibility, having co-secretaries where they would alternate months. Or if we have a few, we can have one person has to do it once a quarter, alternating. So is anyone interested, first of all, in being an officer? Or also anytime if you'd like to make a motion, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, I do just want to quick verify, are there any specific protocols to this in terms of making nominations, or is it just open to volunteering?
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be a motion and a vote on each officer. It can be done individually or it can be done as a slate. It is completely up to the membership.
Okay, that's to answer your question, Rondi. I am interested in an officer position. I would be open to chairing or vice chairing.
Okay. Anyone else interested in either one of those positions? Okay, how about secretary?
I'd be happy to do a co-secretarial position with John, if John wants to continue his secretarial duties.
In addition to the potential of having Andrew with John, is anyone else interested in sharing the position? Or maybe instead of John, either way. Like I said, John has been willing to continue doing this as needed, but if there is anyone else who would like to, then that's great. Okay, so
Yeah, I'm willing to continue if that's what everybody wants. So, but if anybody else wants to do it, I've done it a long time, 6 years. So,
Yeah, John, I'd just be happy to co-chair and give you a hand. I was the board recorder for the Lake Lemon Conservancy District for about a year, so I do have experience with meeting minutes and whatnot. So I'm very happy to assist with that, with note taking and finalizing the minutes if you're willing to share the role with me.
yeah, that's fine because I listen to the Cats TV every meeting, and I try to write as best I can, and what I try to do is rather than write down word for word what was said, I try to write down the concepts of what was talked about, and because people don't have time to read pages and pages of notes, I think they're more interested in the basic ideas that were discussed, and but nobody's ever said one way or the other on the solid waste board if they like the minutes and the style or not. I don't really know if anybody, I just don't know what they think of my style of minutes. No one's ever said one way or the other, so I just don't know.
I read them and I think you do a great job, John. I think you'll be a great mentor to Andrew.
Yeah, I agree. Your style is great.
Same here.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm
Well,
glad you read them, Ryan.
So if anyone would like to make a motion, whether for an individual position or for all three at once, floor is open.
I think I'd move to create a slate to vote all at once with myself as chair, Rondi as vice chair, and a co-secretary between Andrew and John.
Second. Oh, can I second? I think I can. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So Joel will be our new chair. I will be vice chair. And John and Andrew will be our co-secretaries. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's all we have. I don't believe we have any members of the public in attendance. Is that correct? Okay. Our next meeting, aside from subcommittee meetings that we'll be having in between, is Thursday, February 18th at 5:15. It will be through Zoom. I think this is a recurring link. Isn't that correct, Tom? So I'll send the link, or well, Joe will actually send the link, but it should be the same as it was tonight.
Yeah,
So.
the Zoom meeting information will remain the same meeting to meeting.
Great. All right. Motion to adjourn, anyone?
I do move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.